So my name is Susie Ho Sang, as Robin has said. Originally, I started out my path because I was a stay-at-home mother of four at the time. Yep, four at the time, and for the 8 years that I was home with my children, my husband had took care of everything. He was an entrepreneur into advertisement, so he did everything. So I was a stay-at-home mother. By the time I got to my fourth child, business was not as good as it was over the years, so we had to rethink what we were going to do. He continued in the business that he was doing, but then I decided to go back to school. So I walked to the administrative building here at Stick, and I said I would like to go back to school, and that was the beginning of the process here at Stick. I took the placement test. My original path was to be a nurse. That's what I wanted to do. So I went in, took the placement test, and after being out of school for so long, I think I was out of school for about 10 years at that point, I really thought I would just be able to come in, take this test, do really well, and all of that. But you know how that saying goes, is that you lose what you don't use all the time. So I was thinking way ahead here, and I was actually right here. So I didn't do too very well on the placement test, so mostly all my classes were like intro classes. So I started out the path doing that. I got to take a course. I don't know if he's still here, Professor Pettit. Is he still here? I think he's biology or biology. It's another course. I think it's biology that he teaches. Okay. So I did it well in all of my other classes, but the biology class, I was failing at the halfway point, and we took the midterm, and I bombed that too. So all during his class, I went and I got a recorder so that I can try to, because different professors have different ways that they teach. So you kind of have to do what you can to try to go with the flow so that you can get to learn what you need to learn. So I tried that method, and I recorded him. I went home, and the same thing that was going on in class was the same thing on the recording. It was that he just spoke too fast for me, and I could not grasp the information that he was trying to do. So midway, I took that midterm, and I failed. And I still remember my advisor back then. Her name was Nitsa Martinez. I know she's no longer here, but as you can tell when people make an impact on your life, because you always remember their name, no matter how many years you go on in life. And so she was my advisor, and I went to her, and she says, well, she said, you definitely would have to take this, and you have to take anatomy and physiology if you were to become a nurse. So she said, most people take these courses because, or they want to become a nurse because of money. They realize, okay, you can make good money if you become a nurse. She said, but most people don't have the aspect of wanting to make the money and the skills as far as liking or wanting to do it. Some people go in that field just for the money, and they're miserable. They just make them, they're really not into really taking care of patients like that. They'll be relaxed in the job. So she said, why don't you try something different? And basically she was telling me, I'm not saying this is you. She's saying, but that's what she usually gets. So she said, why don't you try medical assistance? So I said, well, I still have to take a biology course for that. And she said, I think it's more of an intro to biology. It's not as advanced as the class that I was taking. And she said, I think you do fine. She said, why don't you try that? She said, that way you can even see if you would even like to be in this field. You're going to be a medical assistant. And then down the road, you can kind of make a decision. You could say, well, since I did that, I would like to be a nurse since you have the experience of actually dealing with people. So I said, okay, let's try that then. So I did all the courses that I needed to take, all my prerequisites. And I remember taking... I can't remember if it was biology, the intro biology, but it was definitely a science class. I can't remember to this day, but I remember her name. Stremko was her last name. My favorite. She really, now you could tell I was really like not so good at science because she was really good, and she was repetitive, and she helped me all the way through. I had tutors, and I still got a C+. So it wasn't like I was all that good at it at all. So, but I passed her course, and she said, well, if you want to come back, you can do the second course with me. And so same thing with math. Math and biology, they go together hand in hand, and I wasn't good at math either. My strong point, English, all the way. Had no problem with English. on paper, words just like mistakes in English, they just pop out of me. But math and science, not good at it at all. So, but the professor I had then, she definitely was able to get me to pass that course with a B plus. So I was on my way. I applied for the program, the medical assistance program, and at the time, Miss Ryan, she was practicum. Is that what you're doing now? Okay, practicum coordinator. Okay, she was that, and at the time it was Patton Gill, who was the chief, and she also taught another class, and it was I kind of remember all of their names, but so I entered the program, and I really, really loved the program. It was really enlightening, and the information that I got from the program was like the best. Okay, I felt so much in love with not just being a medical assistant, but the program itself and how it really helped me to understand life and how it helped me to understand how to take care of patients, how to conduct myself in a professional setting. All of those things was able to help me. And over the years, I've heard they've added so much more things to really help a student to grasp onto those things. So that was really good for me. So I continued in the program. I got pretty good grades in the program. When it came towards the end, we are the first class. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Ryan probably can correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure. We were the first class when they were deciding to do, it was a certificate back then, but they decided to do an associate's degree program. So because we had finished our certificate, basically all we had to do was sign a paper and it would roll right into the associate's degree program. So it was me and maybe about, I want to say maybe 7 or 8 other students that decided to do that, while the rest of them just went on and graduated with their certificate. So, and one of the biggest reasons why I decided to do the associate's degree is Miss Tammy Martin back then. She was doing, I can't remember the course right now, but human development. Mm-hmm. Okay, she was doing that course then. And she really convinced me. She said, I think you should just go on and do the associate's degree. That way, once you go, if you decide to go on to be a nurse, you'll be able to have this under your belt, you know, and some of the courses that you take here hopefully will, you know, transfer over. She said, but it's a good idea to do that. And then I thought to myself, it is definitely a good idea to go on and get your associate's degree. So I continued on with the other, my 8 to 10, can't remember, classmates. So we went on to do that course. This class was in that course also. Which Miss Ryan at the time, she taught this course. And Miss Ryan, let me tell you, she's a dynamo. She was very hard on all of us. She's very strict on things. But I really appreciated that, because sometimes you can get to a certain point where you're like, you kind of want to give up and you're like, this is too hard, it's too much, this is going on. I'm never going to use this in my life, so why am I taking this part of the course, you know? But she kept a lot of us on track. And some people still kind of faded away, but she was really good at convincing and like, hey, you need to stick to what's going on here. And like I said, at the time I had 4 children, and there were a lot of things going on socially outside of here. But she was able to help us to separate the outside from coming in here and doing what we're supposed to do in here, do our work, and still keep them connected in a way to say, okay, you need, whatever's going on out there, it should help fuel you to do what you need to do in here to better yourselves, you know, to be great. So I went through, and at the end of my, at the end of the course, at the end of the program, I had got placed into High Street Health Center, which was right down the street, which I was happy about, yay, because I didn't want to have to go too far to do anything. So I did my externship right at High Street Health Center. I was there for the regular time that you guys normally go for yours, and I think I had to do the specialty part where I had to draw blood. So I ended up, at the time, we didn't have a contract with the Bay State High Street one, because it was like right there. I could have did it right there, but we didn't have a contract with them. We were contracted with Hampden County Physicians Associates. So I went there to do my drawing, where I was going to draw blood, and they also had a specialty side in High Street Health Center, so that kind of fulfilled that part of it too. So I just went from one pod to the other to make sure I got that kind of training in it too. So I went there, did my externship there. By the end of the externship, there was someone that was leaving, and I really walked out on my last day thinking, I'm not going to find a job, because sometimes when you're in your externship, you just can't read people, and you don't know what they think about you. All you can do is the best job that you can do, and just remember the training that you get from here. Like, okay, I need to be focused, I need to be professional. If there's other people around me that are gossiping and talking, because remember, they already have their job. So, whether something happens to them, that's on them. But as a student, when you go into a professional place like that, you have to be professional. And it also helps for somebody to be able to shape and to know, okay, this person would be good for employment. So I kind of went out of there, I did the best that I could, and I kind of went out of there not knowing what was going to happen. And sometimes when you come out of school, it's hard to get a job because people want somebody that already have experience with things. But what I learned is when you do your externship, if you do a great job at your externship, it's so much easier to get in there. It's almost like okay, I want to give you the job if you do really well. So leaving out, the lead MA at the time was Holly Aiken. She's a RN. She used to come do this class too, to speak to. I don't know if she still does, but
she does. But I've seen her name.
Okay, so she was the lead medical assistant then, and so she kind of chased me down as I'm going out. She was like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And like it was a sigh of relief. I was like, yes. Of course I want a job. So at the time someone else was leaving at some kind of hiatus or something that she was doing, and she wasn't going to be back for a while. So she said, we're going to hire, she said, I'm going to talk to the practice manager. And she said, we're going to, most likely you'll probably be hired under per diem. You guys know what per diem is, right? You'll be hired under that, but who knows? You might just be able to climb up from that part-time to full-time. So I got hired there. I started on the job the same time someone else had started on the job. They must have hired someone else from the outside, and we both got hired as per diem in less than a month. And sometimes it could be it could be a couple of things that's happening at one time, and it just kind of all falls into place for you. You can be doing a great job, and then there could be an opening at the same time. So at this time, they had a couple of openings, and they were building, High Street Health Center has teams that they build, and back then it was only about maybe 3 or 4. So they went into the team-based care model where they needed to have 10 teams, so which means that Bay State Medical Center gave them money to hire more people so that they could build these teams. And that happened at the same time all this was going on. So I was able to get me and the other person that had got hired at the same time per diem. In less than a month, we both got hired full-time. So went from per diem to full-time, and we skipped part-time fully. So I was happy about that. Of course, my husband was happy about that. We had income coming in on a regular basis, and we were doing what we were supposed to do. So so I started out like that, and just to digress a little bit and go back, I started school in 2006, so I graduated in 2008. Still remember the date, February 4th is when I started my job of 2008 in High Street Health Center. So I continued to work. It had to be for a good 2 years. No, it probably was even a year and a half. And I got promoted. When you start those types of jobs, it's entry level, so you're MA1. I got promoted to MA1, to MA2, excuse me, because of my performance. That whole year I did really well. I got promoted to MA2. And then my boss, at the time, like I said, Holly Aiken was the lead MA, but she was cutting down her hours because she was going to start going to be a RN. And which, like I said, everything kind of fell in place all at the same time. It was really good. So she was going to school to be an RN. She was cutting back her hours. So my practice manager had to think. She's like, okay, well, let me look out amongst the medical assistants to see who would be good to kind of take this job, the RN, the lead medical assistant job. And at the time, I was only at MA2. You have to go to MA3 before you can become a lead. So I was MA2, and she said, like I said, she kind of looked out, and there was another girl at the time that was there. She was there 2 years before me, and she was really up for this job. I mean, of course, she knew more than me because she had been there much longer than me. So as she was there about 4 years, and I was only there about 2 years. So, so Holly had cut down her hours. She decided, she brought me in the office, and she said, I'm looking at you. I just want to know. She said, first of all, she said, you're too quiet. You don't talk enough, which clearly I was always quiet. I didn't talk enough. I didn't really get into gossip things with the rest of them. I kind of probably seemed more mature because I didn't talk a whole lot. And at that time, there was a lot of drama in that clinic, a whole lot of drama. And I kind of stayed away from that. So she kind of looked at me as like, okay, a little bit more mature than the rest of them. But she said, you don't talk. She said, on your performance, she said, I would have given you exemplary, but you don't talk. And she said, I need you to speak up. You know your skills. You know everything you need to do. I need you to speak up. If you get pushed back from any of the other medical assistants, she said, let me know. She said, I want you to create something. I want you to come up with something in your mind that you think would better the clinic. So I wanted to say it took me about a month to start to do all of those things. Sometimes when you're working with people that you've worked with for a long time, it's hard to go from one position to a promoted position over them because there's all kind of feelings, mixed emotions about things. And like I said, the other girl had been there much longer than me, much more social, and kind of their friend. So it took me a little while before I could gain the respect of the medical assistants there. And mind you, I did not want to be the lead medical assistant. I didn't. I just wanted to do my job. But I guess my practice manager at the time, she saw something in me. So
I'm sorry, so this was after 2 years?
This was after 2 years.
And then she offered you the
No, because I had to become medical assistant 3 before I could be lead.
Okay.
So she was trying to give me hints, okay, if we start doing these things, I can promote you to medical assistant 3 because you have to meet a certain criteria to be medical assistant 3.
Each level is more pay.
Oh yes, it's more pay. Each level is more pay. I want to say to be the evaluation, my evaluation, almost all of my evaluations and almost all of my promotions happened at the same time. So I was getting like $1. So it was 50 cents for if you're going from MA1 to MA2, and then it's 50 cents or more. It could be more if you're doing your performance evaluation, and you get exemplary on everything. And a little later on, I'll tell you a little bit about that because I was able to get a pretty good amount from that point on. So did that help answer your question?
Yes.
Sometimes I have to ask that because you want people to understand what you're saying. So I went on. She gave me those little hints on what to do, and boy, it was really hard in the beginning because, like I said, I didn't like to talk. Knew my stuff, but I just communication. I'm good. I don't need to talk. That's what I felt like. So I'm sure you've learned in one of these courses that I am an introvert. If not, you've probably learned it out there, but definitely I didn't like to talk. So I continued on, and within a month, I came up with a plan, which is known throughout all of Bay State Medical Center. So you have the main hospital now, and then you have all of the health centers that are around. You have Brightwood Health Center, Mason Square, Neighborhood Health Center, High Street Health Center. Those are the 3 health centers that they have around. So I came up with a plan, and what we called those things back then were pilots. So we had a few medical assistants. I can't remember now how many of it was, maybe about 5 or 6 in Pod B. And what I came up with, most of the time when you came in, different medical assistants will come in at different times. So the providers will always be waiting. The doctors will be waiting for their patients because their medical assistant wasn't in yet, which would impact patient care because patients were waiting because the doctors didn't have medical assistants to put the patients in. So I came up with a pilot where everyone who's there is like all hands on deck, meaning everybody that's there, you prep everybody's patients, whether they're yours or not. And I came up with an actual plan on paper. This wasn't just something I just voiced to her. I did it on paper because I seem to be visual and hands-on, like both. So I wanted her to really understand what I was trying to say because if I explained it to her, it probably would have been really hard for her to understand. Because sometimes when you don't understand other people's role or you don't do that job, you don't know what they're talking about. So I did a visual for her, And so it's like all hands on deck. Everybody preps everybody's patients till everybody comes in. That was the pilot. That was the surface of the pilot. So she looked at it and she says, okay, well, what do your other medical assistants think about it? And I said, well, I didn't really tell them yet, you know. And she said, well, see what they think. Go to them and see what they think. I got a lot of pushback on it because I had to tweak a few things on it. And I got pushback, but I kept pushing forward with it. I'm like, this will work if we do this. So we started that pilot, and it actually was a huge success. And along with what was going on at the time, where we were building all these new teams and they were hiring more MAs, it even became more successful because we came in already with a successful plan that was working. We didn't have to get all of these people hired and then try to go to the level of where we were at with more people and try to figure out how to make it work. It was already there. We had a successful plan. So it continued on to work. She promoted me the very next year. So that's with them. The very next year, she promoted me to MA3. And I think there was a couple of other little girls that she promoted to MA3 also. So when you're MA3, some of the criteria can be, to be at MA3, you have to learn how to order because you're going to be ordering for the whole clinic. You have to be able to train somebody. You have to be able to mentor somebody. When all of the new residents came in, which we'd have a whole lot, at least 20 to 30 every year around June, you would have to know how to orient them. You had to write protocols down. I came up with something called, as an MA, I can do this, and as an MA, I can't do this. And that got implemented into the orientation packet that all of the residents got when they came. So she promoted me to MA3, which was a really good thing. From then on, it was still another, I want to say, year and a half to 2 years before I got to be lead MA. And I think most of that was she was just trying to sit back and see who would be the best one for it because, again, it was somebody else there that was 2 years before me. So I continued on, did the best that I could do in my job. I kept coming up with things. Here's the thing when you go into a workplace and about being professional and continuing to do your job, because some people might get upset, like, I deserve to be here, and why are you still keeping me here? But what I definitely learned is you continue to do the best job that you can, and that work speaks for itself. You don't have to boast about things. It just speaks for itself. So I was coming up with all kind of ways in different areas, implementing all kind of pilots here and there, which spoke for itself. And like I said, even now, the main hospital and the higher ups, back we had Tom Lombardo back then as our directors of our clinics. He was his boss. So there was recognition that I was given for starting this thing in the clinics. Now, every clinic does not do this. I was only recognized because it really changed a huge part of the patient process flow there. And we still do that to this day. So we continued on. I continued working for them 2 years. And then Holly had started to go to be an RN full-time. So she finished all her prerequisites. She got into the program. I think she came to stay, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, yeah, she came to stay. She started the program here, so she was out completely from, she would come in, I think she went to per diem, and she would come in like certain different times. So my boss called, and at the time she was only doing that job. She called both me and another young lady named Jasenia. She called us both in the office and she said, ta-da, she said, I'm gonna make you both lead MAs. Now, at the time, remember, there was only one, and that was because it was on a lower level. There wasn't that many medical assistants. But remember, we were building to more medical assistants, more teams. So at this time, we had 10 teams. We had 15, I want to say, attendings. Let me see, 5, 10, about 15 on the team. So it's a medical, so on each team, it'd be two medical assistants. Okay, put it like this. It's 10 teams. So on one team, because we call them sister teams, because what they do is they take, I was on the pink-orange team, meaning they took two colors and they would infuse them and they will be sister teams. So technically it's 5 sister teams, but if you separate them, on one team it would be a medical assistant, it would be a nurse practitioner or a PA, a nurse, it would be 5 residents, and an attending. So sister teams, we were still connected in that kind of way. So I actually worked alongside someone. So I was the pink MA, and she was the orange MA. Mind you, because I was there from the beginning of all of the team structures and everything. I'm the one who made their wall. I started out on Burgundy Lilac team, and I had been on every single team, trying to either make it better or trying to work it up to its full potential. So I think me and maybe a couple of others that are still working at High Street were the ones who probably worked on every team there. And you'll learn with every team that everybody has the same mission, but everybody works a little bit different. So she brought us both in the office. She's like, I'm making you both lead MA. We were both happy at that time. And so that's how I became lead MA, where I was at. Anytime we have students that come from STIC, which I love, like I told you earlier.
Pretty much every year we use the site, and she's one of the mentors.
Because my favorite is STIC. So every year there's a student that comes. I am the one who mentors them. I am the one who signs their paperwork. I am the one who trains them. I am the one who places them in different teams. And I am the one who actually, which I think is really important, while they're there with me, decides. And I kind of structure the type of person that they are to what they should do. Meaning this, I don't push you too much if I don't think you could be pushed too much. What I do is try to bring you to another level coming in a different direction. So if you're a person that's slow and it takes you a long time to grasp things, then I will take it slow with you. And then at a certain time, I kind of pick it up and I'm like, okay, this is where you should be at this time. So let's try to get you to that point where you're supposed to be. Because anytime you do an externship, the thought is when you leave there, you're able to go and work in an office right away. Right? You adjust to your surroundings to where you're at because everybody doesn't do the things the same. But your basic skills of being a medical assistant should be superb. They should be great. You should know everything that you need to know. So I adjust to whoever I'm training. So because I did that, my practice manager saw that too, and that's how I ended up having to orient the residents too, because they come from all kind of different countries and everywhere. So I would have to speak to them about how to adjust when they come into our clinic, and help them to continue on and learn the different structures of all of the teams. So yeah, so I did that also. So that's what I have been doing for the last 5 years, is being the lead MA and mentoring. And I did all of the ordering for the whole clinic, which I found out when I started to do it was a very complex job, but I think over the years I had got really good at it. Like I said, I would orient anybody that came in. Anytime we had meetings, I was me and maybe one other from the medical assistants, and at this time it's about 14 or 15, would go to meetings, and then after a while they kept saying I was doing too much, so then we had to delegate to some of the other medical assistants. Because once you're an MA3, you should be involved in almost at least a good portion of the things that's going on, the meetings and stuff. So we had to delegate out to other people for the meetings. But anytime we had meetings with the directors or anything like that, I was to be front and center for those meetings. And I would represent all of the medical assistants and what I thought or what I knew was best for us. Because sometimes they would implement things on us without even knowing our job. So I was the voice for all of us. Like, hey, no, I don't think we can do that. We might be able to pilot this in this kind of way. But what you're asking us to do, we can't do that, because remember, we're doing the job, so we know what our limits are. We know what we could do. So a lot of the things came out of High Street from, it has been built a lot over the last 10 years to what it is right now.
How many years have you been in the lead MA?
5 for lead MA.
Yep.
And so it took, so if you look at it like that, then from the time I started up until the 5th year, it took me the 5 years to go through the different levels of MA to get to be a lead MA. Should I go on?
And now, yeah, what are you doing now?
Okay. So just recently, after Angie was there, they had some other positions. They have this whole new ACO thing now through Mass Health, where so many different positions are opened up. So I don't know if you guys know what a community health worker is. Okay.
Who goes to see the patients in
Mhm.
the room and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, mind you, besides what I do here, I'm also very active in my church. I'm a missionary. I am the choir director for my church. I'm on the missionary board. I am on the pastor's aid committee. I am on almost everything that happens in here. I work in the kitchen with them. I do all of those things too. So I do missionary work a lot. And one of the passions and one of the barriers of when you go to a clinic is that you come in there for your 20 minutes, you get treated for your medical problem, and that's it. You leave. And a lot of the trouble that I would fall into is I was into trying to help the patient fully, not just the medical. So, I mean, it wasn't a big deal on my bosses or anything like that, but a lot of times I would sit with the patients a little longer. Sometimes I just wanted to talk, or sometimes I wanted to empty out, or it was a difficult patient that nobody else could really prep. And that would happen quite often, where there would be a really difficult patient and they were like, well, Susie, you go deal with them because I can't prep them. And I had to build relationships with the patients in order for them to trust me to allow them to prep them. And there was actually one young lady that I saw yesterday after going into my new position. There was one lady that I came downstairs and she was sitting in the waiting room and she had this look on her face that she always has, which is a mean, don't talk to me, I'm bitter, I don't want to see you, don't prep me, don't do anything. And my partner, she would never, because I'm in a new position now, she won't can you come down here and prep her? Even though I would, But she had gotten better over time. So originally when I saw her and I walked past, her face just lit up. And she's like, hi. She said, what's going on? How you doing? And I sat down next to her and we talked. And she said, and I said, well, I'm in a new position and I'm upstairs. And I said, if you're home and you have this, there's a certain Mass Health Insurance, I said, I will be able to come to your house and sit and talk with you, look at your medications. If you need help with an application for food stamps or SSI or whatever, or transportation issue, I can come help you with that. And she said, really? I said, yes. So I'm just going to give this example for her because there's quite a few that this happened with. With her, she was very depressed. She would come in to see her doctor, and she was, like I said, she always had this mean face, so they would always here, can you prep her? So she would still have that mean face, and I would still ask the questions. And when she would literally look at you like, I'm not answering that question. She would do something like that, and guess what I would do? I would smile and keep going, and I'd ask the next question, and then when I got to the end, I'd go back to the first question. By the time I got to the end, she answered my first question. So I kind of built that kind of relationship and I never let on to her that I didn't like the fact that she looked at me like that, or I didn't get an attitude back with her. I just continued on being that type of person where every time she came in, that I wasn't budging from my questions. You're going to answer my questions, and I wasn't budging from the fact that I know that there's something going on with you, and I want to help you with that. So she was one where one day she came in, and this was over a period of years. One day she came in, and she answered all of my questions. She still had a mean face, but she answered all my questions because that's the type of relationship that we had. She went into the room. One of the questions we always ask is, are you depressed? Have you been depressed in the last 2 weeks? And she never liked to answer that question. So we got into the room. I asked her the question, and she says, yeah. She said, I'm just going through so much right now. She said, my doctor's not helping me. And I said, okay, well, tell me about what you're going through. We spent 20 minutes in the room. I ended up having to open the door and say, hey, can you prep the rest of my patients because I'm talking with a patient. So what essentially happening to this lady is she was married to a Caucasian, and his mother, who was 90-something years old, her family used to do slave trade. So she was very racist, and she would throw racial slurs at her, even though she was the one taking care of her. So she got very bitter over a matter of, I want to say 20 years, against her mother-in-law, because her mother-in-law would throw racial slurs at her, would talk about how nappy her hair was, and how did they braid your hair. She just, was really racist. So she developed being bitter all the time. And what happened is instead of her being able to be bitter to just her, because that's the person that was treating her like that, her whole outside world, she was bitter to them. Didn't matter where she went, she was just bitter on things because she didn't like the way she was being treated. So she explained that to me, And I told her, have you ever told your doctor that? She said, yeah, but I never really told her how it was really hurting me. And that's the reason why I'm so depressed. And I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say this, but I'm like, so the doctor really never made the connection on that. Because sometimes the depression can affect the physical too, you know? So I encouraged her. I said, why don't you tell the doctor what you told me when she comes into the room? She did that. And the doctor, once I talked to her after, she did confirm. She was like, I didn't know it was something that had happened to her, she said, but she didn't know it was to that extent. And at the time, she's still taking care of this woman, you know? So I was able to get through with her like that. And then afterwards, every time she came in after that, she smiled. I would say, hey, you dyed your hair, or those earrings look pretty on you. And she just broke. When I say broke, I broke through something with her. Like, she was able to smile at people, talk. My partner, she would allow her to prep her, but she wouldn't, like, she would answer her questions, but she never really would like talk to her, but at least to the point where she didn't feel like I can't prep this lady because she's probably gonna hit me or something like that, you know. So that to me was far more greater than the time that they was giving us to be able to prep these patients, somewhere between 10 and maybe 12 minutes. That to me was something that I felt was really good. And like I said, I'm a missionary, so it helped me to decide. I'm like, these new positions came up where you can go into the home, just like you said, and you can talk with the patient, fill out the SSI form, whatever forms they got going on, as I said earlier, and you're able to actually sit and talk with them in their comfort zone. A lot of times when patients come, they're tense because they don't know what they're coming into. They don't know what diagnosis they're going to get. They don't know what's going to happen when they get in the room. You're going to tell me I have this. You're going to tell me I have that. So they come in already tense with what's going to happen to them. So I found this position to be more, it helped to bring in the missionary part of me where, you know, I feel like prayer is an excellent thing, and helping people is an excellent thing. And it brought in the medical part of that too. So
in that position, did you have to apply for it? Did you need any more training for it?
Okay, so because I was already the lead MA there, and because of my worth ethics, I want to tell you this story because it's really a good story. I don't know how much more time I have, but it's a really good story.
You good? Can you stay?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a really good story. So first, let me tell you the position. The position is called community health worker. I got hired. Usually, you get hired as a community health worker 1, but I got hired as a community health worker 2. There was 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 4 people internally in my job that was going for this job. Now, this job paid. I want to say at the time paid $3 less than what I was getting paid at the time as lead MA. And so I went to my boss. The position opened up, and I went to her and I said, "Listen," I said, if you guys can't pay me, I want to say $3 or $4 more than what I'm getting paid now, then I'm not gonna even try to interview for this position. She said, I think you would be really good for this position. And I said, well, I can't get paid $3 less. You know, I need to get at least paid $3 or $4 more. So she's like, go ahead and still interview for it. So mind you, I want to say the 3 other people that were interviewing for this, they were getting paid less than what they were offering for this position. So it would have been really easy for them to just give it to one of them. You know, you're getting paid less, so I know you'll take this amount of money because you're getting paid less than what you're getting paid right now. So the other 3 went for the position. We all got interviewed. So 3 of us were internally, and the 4th person, was from the outside. And mind you, she was getting paid less too, so this would have been an upgrade for her too. The only one that would have been a downgrade for was for me. And like I said, I told him, if I can't get more, then I might as well not take it. So we all interviewed for it. We interviewed for the position. The first interview that I had was with 3 of my bosses there, which when you're in the interview process, I don't know about you guys, but you sweat, and you're like, I don't know what you're going to ask me. I need to be able to answer these questions, and you want the job, you know, so you want to do the best you can with it. So because I know my job very well, the interview process, and I was in front of people that I've known all the time, I go to meetings with them, the interview process for me was really easy. What I didn't know is when I went to the second interview, it had to be in front of one of the higher doctors, which I was more nervous about. I worked with her also, but I don't know, sometimes you feel like when people are a little superior to you that, you know, you're not going to be able to meet their expectations. So I went for the second interview, and mind you, by this time it was down to me and the girl from the outside. Because the other two, they said, we're not going to give them the second interview. We'll give it to her, we'll give it to Susie, and we'll give it to the other one from the outside. So the other girl did her interview first, and then I did my interview. And like I said, it was with 4 people this time. And mind you, this was a little room. I could not, it was such a small room, and I felt not claustrophobic, but I felt claustrophobic, and I had to really center myself and be like, okay, let me try to knock this out the park. So I did the interview, and I want to say by the end of the interview, the 4th person, which I consider to be a lot more superior to me, she looks at me and she gives me this smile and she says, "Okay, I think we're all done here." I didn't know what that meant. You know, you're like, yeah, do I got the job or not? Because they won't tell you at that time. They have to make an offer. So I left from there. I went back into the clinic, and of course, all the other medical assistants knew I had went for. At that time, they didn't know, but at least a couple of them did know, because I told a couple of them that I went for the position, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you think you got it?" I'm like, "I don't know." So they made me an offer. They made me an offer. I want to say $4 more than what their original offer is, which means that it was only $1 more of what I was already making. So when she pulled me in the office and she offered me that, I looked and I said, okay, I was expecting more than that. She said, yeah. She said, well, let's see what I could do. So she went back in. She deliberated with them for 3 to 4 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks she deliberated with them. And she was able to get me $4 more than what they originally had, than what I was making. So technically, if you think about it, I got paid almost $7 more than the original amount. And they could have given it to the girl that was $2 less than what they were offering, because she would have gladly took it. So, and I believe it's because of my work ethics. I was really good. And afterwards, I found out through the people that I'm working with, and that was in the interview, they said that my practice manager spoke really highly of me. And she was the same one, was able to get me the $4 more. So my work ethic really spoke for me. And so they gave me the job. They offered it to me, and I said, okay, I took the job. So I've been doing that for the last, I want to say, almost 2 months now. They hired me at Community Health Worker 2 because of all the experience that I had as being a medical assistant. So I was bringing all of those skills, and combining them with the skills of I would say, because I'm a missionary. But they know that where I work, but I'm saying in the professional sense, I brought those skills along with the skills, the medical assistant skills, along with the skills of being a community person in itself, because I am involved in a lot of community things too, and it meshed well together. So they hired me. I've been there for about 2 months, and I'm learning a whole lot of what I'm doing. I make home visits.
How many home visits do you get a week?
I want to say, I'm still training, so I have to go with somebody. So I want to say 3 a week. Because of the ACO, we have to do like this whole list of care plans. Mm-hmm. So we've stopped this whole week in order to try to get the care plans knocked out, and then next week we'll start again doing home visits, which I find to be so much more liberating. You're free with your time a lot more once this really gets off the ground and running like it's supposed to. I mean, it's running good now, but like really at full capacity, 50% of my time will be out in the field, and 50% will be in the hospital setting.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. So walking into people's houses, how do you get like the confidence? Because you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know the situation. So
what helps with that is I come from this community, like the ghetto part of this community. I'm just saying, put it out there, right? So both sides of my family on drugs really bad as I was coming up. I am the first one to go to college. I'm the first one to graduate. I'm the first. So this social place around here is where I grew up all my life. I'm 40 years old. I know this area so well.
How many children
so,
do you have?
Oh, I have 7 now. Yeah. So I had 3 more while I was working at High Street. I had 3 more kids, so I have 7 now. My daughter actually goes here, the 20-year-old. She's in the criminal justice program here. And my other daughter actually took a course with Robin here, doing med term during the summertime. So that's what helped me. Now, for somebody that probably doesn't come from this area, it's a little harder. Like for the nurse that we work with, he's Caucasian, and he's like, I don't know if I could go into these people's houses. So some of us will, like, because we're from the community, we'll go with him. But it doesn't bother me at all. And it probably should, but it doesn't. I've been around guns. I've been around drug activity all my life. It just doesn't bother me. I'll go in, do what I need to do. If I see something that would bother me, it's kind of normal, which shouldn't be, but it is, because I'm so used to that. It doesn't bother me at all. But for somebody who's not used to it, I can see how it could be like that. But the way you gain your confidence is you take all the skills that you have from in office, because guess what? You're going to be same people that you're going into their homes, they come into your office. And if you build that type of relationship with them, these people will tell you what's going on with them on a day-to-day basis. So sometimes they're on drugs really bad, some of them that come in smell like marijuana when they come in, so that they do that. And some of them, most of the young people will tell you that they smoke. They don't mind. They're like, look, this is what I smoke. I do it all the time. So sometimes you build a better relationship with people when they come in like that. They might have a substance abuse problem or something like that. You build confidence with them, and you have to know that when they talk about these things, that they've done these people actually live like that, and they've done these things. So you kind of prepare yourself to see something that you might have never seen before, or you get yourself into the mode where I'm coming to help this person, and whatever is going on with this person, the social things that's going on with this person, I have to accept that, because this is this person's world. I'm walking into their world. It's not my world. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
What services do you offer them when you go to their houses?
The services?
Yeah.
So we help them fill out any applications. Some people can't read or write. They won't even tell you that in the office. You'll find that out when you get there. That's why they need help filling out, because you'll be like, oh, we need help with that. Because they can't read or write, and sometimes they won't tell you that until you're actually in the home. Like, can you write this out for me? And then you kind of be like, oh, okay, they can't read or write. So guess what? That stagnates a person when, they're coming in for their care. They can't read or write, but they won't tell nobody there. So, oh, hi. So we help with SSI applications. We would even take it and mail it out for them. We help with food stamp applications. Because we work in the office with their doctors also, we help facilitate making sure that doctor fills out their portion of it. We help, so food stamp, SSI, we go to the food pantries, we get food, bring it to their homes. We sign them up for PT1 transportation, so that they have transportation back and forth from their house to the appointments that they have at High Street. We also will go and do what we call a home needs visit, meaning that we go kind of look around, and we don't hide anything. We look and we see what needs to be done, and we kind of help out with that. If they have clothing, we're going to be starting a clothing drive soon, where we can gather clothes from the community, bring it to the home. We can take them to their appointments. We can meet them, housing situations. If it's a housing application, we can help them do the housing application. We can go actually to the housing places with them, because sometimes if they come with a worker or somebody like that, it helps facilitate it a little bit better. So we can go to the actual place with them, hand in the application, talk to their caseworker there, any of those things. We can, let me see. We can also do, we're doing these, like I mentioned before, like these health needs assessments, where it talks about whether they're on drugs, whether they need help toileting, PCA services. We can start that also with them. Any of those things. And sometimes some of the things that we don't know we can do if somebody brings it up. Like if it's something that's not on that list that you say, hey, I need help with this, then our whole team gets together and we kind of try to make that happen for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome.
What a story.
Yeah.
Huh? Any other questions?
Yes. When you said you work 50 and 50, which means you work, 3 visits outside and you do clinical at the same time with the same patient you go see out of the clinic?
Yes. That's the other thing. When they're in the clinic, when our patients come in the clinic, or if there's somebody that needs something that's downstairs in the clinic, they will call, text, or page us, and we can come down after their visit with the provider and do the same thing that we could do in their home with them there. or we could set up a visit there. Like I said, they're more comfortable in their home. We could say, hey, I'm gonna come visit you on this particular day, and we'll do your paperwork there. So my journey, just in the little end part here, because I want to make sure this, I usually do say this at the end, and it's still going on. I had started to do writing school. I have not completed it yet. They're still sending me the emails for it. But I used to love to write when I was a kid, and that was really what I wanted to do. But because I had no direction or had really nobody to help me, remember I told you what kind of household I came up in. So I really had no one to help steer me in that direction. But as I got older, I was able to start writing school. Like I said, I have not completed it yet. They're still sending me emails on it. But in order to incorporate that with what I do now, I'm getting my bachelor's degree now in hopes to come work here soon. And then I'm going to go on, once I continue I'm going to continue working and going to school. I'm going to go on and get my master's degree. And because I'm so old, I consider myself old, I'm going to continue to go to school because I can't take a break. I need to go ahead and finish it. So I'm going to get my master's degree in public health. And that was a suggestion from one of the doctors that I work with, because she kind of has known me for the last 10 years, and she said, you would be really excellent at this. So she convinced me to do my master's degree in public health, and then I'm going to go on and get my PhD in the hopes to one day incorporate that in combination with being able to write, which could be some of the books that you guys use, or for medical assistants, it could be on a platform where I go from state to state in government speaking about public health. So it kind of incorporates both things, both worlds into one.
That's awesome. And I like it because your determination. You don't want to stop.
Yes.
You want to keep going.
I have to show my children that it can be done, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I know it could be
Are
done.
you in adult medicine?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm in adult medicine, yep. And my husband he's super dynamo, everything you could, Superman, everything you could imagine, he is that. Because with my schooling, with the bachelor's degree, it's all online. So you can imagine, none of my work is done before 8 o'clock for school. Everything is done after 8 o'clock, and sometimes I'm up till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning every night getting that work done. Yeah, because for me, everything else in my home comes first before anything else. So if I'm gonna be in school, it's gonna be the last thing I do during the day. And
How old is your youngest?
he's 4.
Oh, look at you.
I have 3 under 10. So yeah, so that's my journey there, and I think it's going pretty well for me. So yeah, I do a lot of the stuff that I do after 8 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm always tired. I survive off of 5 or 6 hours of sleep a day. And I have a 3.9 grade point average, what I'm doing now. So I'm doing really well. With that nighttime working, I'm doing well. Sometimes I fall asleep in front of the laptop. I'm like, I gotta get this done. Determination is what it is. Yeah.
Now, what do you have left? What's left in that program you have left to do?
In the bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna be done this semester, but I got a surprise from my advisor. So I still have two semesters to do. And that's if I do, right now I'm doing 3 courses, that's if I do 4 courses for each one. And I started out with just 2, and then I said, okay, I think I could do 3 if I kind of get it in there. And so I'm doing 3 courses right now.
Did you do the history one yet? Did you have history to take with that?
The intro, I did Latin America, if that's what you're,
yeah.
I did the Latin America one, yep. I got an A in that course.
Did you finish writing your portfolio?
I did that. I got all of the credits for it, which was good too. And it's life experience, so that was easy for me. I was like, yes, this is something I could talk about. Because I could talk all day about a lot of things I went through. I think mine was like 34. I think mine was like 34.
I was 40. Yeah.
At what font?
12. It was Times New Roman 12-point double space.
Oh my god.
It sounds hard, but once you start it,
yeah. And they kind of give you guidance through it too, like what you should talk about here, what you should talk about here, and what you should talk about at the end. And they actually have like a 1 credit course that you can do during the summer, something like that, to give you even more. But I didn't do that because that would have pushed me out a whole nother semester to have to do that too. So.
Good.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Good.
So hopefully you guys will see my name somewhere out there in the next 4 or 5 years.
I want to tell you right now, they are in their externship, and she is at Wesson Women's Clinic.
Oh.
And she is in Wesson Women's Group on 3300 Main.
Okay. Do you know Latreia McDonald there?
Latreia. I believe she's a BSR.
A PSR? Or is it called BSR there?
BSR is at Riverbend.
Oh,
isn't it?
yeah, I'm sorry. Like the call center and stuff.
She probably.
I think she's in the front. I have
Yes.
her though, yes.
Yeah. Tell her Susie said hi. I trained her too. She was a medical assistant at High Street. And then she switched over. We couldn't get her, there was positions open, but it was ridiculous. Nobody listened to me. She's like the excellent worker. But she ended up leaving and going to Western Women because she couldn't get a hire as a medical assistant there. But tell her I said hi.
She does really well.
Oh, I know. She's very good.
She is.
It's my girl. She's good. So,
Thank you
yep.
so much. That was good information.
You're welcome. I'm happy, and I hope it really helps you to be determined about doing what you're doing, because you can do it. Mhm. And Western Women, actually, like I said, I wanted to be a nurse, but I really wanted to work with women and children and be a midwife at one point. But that was way before I decided, no, I just want to be a nurse. And my daughter actually is on that path now. She wants to be, and I didn't tell her to do that, but that's what she wants to do. She wants to be a midwife.
Yeah.
So she's on that journey now too.
I want to be a delivery room nurse, so.
Oh, nice.
It's very
Great. Thank you so
I
much.
talked that long, guys. This is coming from somebody that doesn't like to talk, guys.
She had to tell her to speak up. It was too quiet.
Yeah, I was too quiet. So,
It just keeps going. And he comes in and he edits it, so he'll edit it where I said thank you. I have no way to turn. I know.
Good to see you, Susie.
you too.
Susie,
When you
when you
can-
was a student, when you had, she was expecting. What-
Not yet.
No, you
I
were.
had just had my son, my
Right.
4th child, when I started
Fourth
school.
child.
I forgot to mention that. He was 2 weeks old when I started school.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it.
Because I really wanted to start. Like, I was determined to just start, because I feel like once I make up my mind to do something, I have to do that, because then too much time will go by. I'll be like, oh, well, he's 1 month. Let me wait till he's 6 months. Let me wait till he's a year. So I just started. Yeah, so right after I had him.
She did the certificate and then went on and did the associate degree.
Mhm. I was telling them we were the class, right? Just correct me if I'm wrong. We were the class where they was transitioning into associate's degrees, so we had to sign a paper at the time. We were doing a certificate. All we had to do was sign a paper to go right into the associate degree one.
Yeah.
So we were that class. Yeah.
And you were transitioning 2006,
Mhm.
2007.
Yep, that was the year. Yeah. So I had to do was sign a paper, and I was in the associate degree one.
And you like this new position.
I really do. Like I said, it
Cool.
incorporates
That's the new
both.
model, right?
Mhm. It's the new model. It is.
Yeah, I remember them talking about it.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while that they were talking about it, but now they've like pushed really forward
And
with
is
it.
it primarily out of your clinic or all clinics?
All
or
of
you
the-
like a pilot?
So all of the healthcare centers
Yep.
and Caring Health Center also, because
Okay.
Caring Health is not a part of Bay State,
Right, they're not.
but yes. So there's like meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, because this is kind of, if you think about it, it's a 2-year pilot what they're doing to
Yeah.
see if this is not really going to work.
Well, that's it, to keep healthcare costs
Team ba-
overall down.
yes.
That's the whole goal, is to
Yep.
make the patient healthier, and by helping them, like you said, if they can't read and write, you give them all these papers and they go home and they don't know what to do with them.
And you think it's because, oh, they just don't want it. It's not that. They really need help with it. So they're going away from fee, I think they call it fee for service there. And how they explain it is they're given a big pot of money, and they need to take care of the patients with this pot of money, which means that you have to be able to get the ED visits down. They don't want them in the ED because it costs a lot of money to go in the ED. They don't want the patients to have to keep coming in every week. Some of the stuff you can do right at their home. You can go right to their home and assess them there.
And teach them too,
Yes.
to take care of
Mhm.
themselves a little bit more. Some of them,
Yes.
have to learn those skills too.
And as a community health worker, that was one of the things that they really reiterated with us. This is not to hold their hand all the way through to the very end. This is to help teach them in order to be able to do this themselves. Like some of them, like we said, can't read or write, that's different. But for the ones that we can teach them, this is what you need to do, then they're supposed to obtain that information if they can and continue to do it on their own. So they're on our list of people that we work with, but at some point they should drop off because they're able to do what they need to do on
You
their
wanna
own.
make them independent.
Right, exactly. Yes.
And
Good.
theoretically, they're hoping to save money in healthcare, because we
Yes.
spend more healthcare than any other developed nation.
Mm-hmm.
We've got all kinds of people that are not using it, or the system is being overloaded in the EDs because
Right.
patients aren't going to their primary cares
Mhm.
because they don't have a primary care, or they can't get a primary care.
Mm-hmm. And one of the meetings we just went to yesterday, they're going to start, I think it's called not team-based care, it's dispatch care, I think it's called that, where actual van, I would say, has everything it needs to have in it, and instead of a patient going in an ambulance to the ED, that it's like an ambulance, I guess, where everything in it will go to the home and assess the patient there. And as far as the CHW, they're also implementing something where they give us cell phones now, the iPhones, and we have iPads. So they're trying to put in place now where the patient can actually have a visit. And some of these are the bedbound patients, but mostly not, where they can have a visit with their doctor in the home. So we would go as a CHW, we would do the FaceTime,
Yeah.
and they could visit right there. And the doctor would be on the iPad, and the patient would be in their bed, and they could actually have a visit like that.
Wasn't
And
it
you're
about
right there,
ambulance
too.
costs
Yes,
so expensive?
we're right there too.
So if they need a set of vital signs, you can do it, or if you need
Yes.
to do glucose or something, you can
Yes.
do it.
As a regular, remember I said I brought the skills from being a medical assistant to this. As a regular CHW, they don't have those skills as taking the blood pressure and doing all of that stuff. But because I have the skills for that, it combined with this, so I'm able to do all of that.
That's awesome. You
I've
said
heard
you're on
that
the
for
second
medical
floor now?
assistants.
Well, technically it's the first floor. So sea level for us would be the first floor, and then the
Right.
second level would be the actual first floor. But you know how you come in through that bottom part? You would go in through the top 140 High Street now.
Oh, okay.
And that's the floor that I'm on.
Oh, all right.
Mhm.
And you'll hook me up with somebody a new mentor?
Yes,
Okay.
and I've already talked to her, and she's really good, and I will come down and get her if she doesn't do what she's supposed to do. But she's been alongside. She doesn't work with me, but she's been around for a lot, and I trained her from the time she first got there. So most of the skills that she has and she's been praised for, she kind of gives me the credit for that. She's like, well, I learned it from Susie. So I would get her if she doesn't treat the students right. But she wouldn't do that, though. She's really good at what she does.
Good.
Yeah, her and another, they hired another lead MA. Well, she was already there too, so both of them are the lead MAs down there. But she would be the one that you would go to and talk to, and they just did a whole lot of hiring because a lot of us went in different positions. So it took them, mind you, 3 weeks. I was still getting paid the old amount for 3 weeks to a month before I could get the new amount, and I was doing both jobs. So I was still doing downstairs job, being lead MA, and the upstairs job with that. Because of the whole, she was trying to make sure that I got what she wanted me to have. She said, I was still trying to get you even more than that. So I had to do both jobs, which was a little strenuous for a little while because I had to really, the way I left that particular job, I told her when I did the interview, I said, I can't just leave the job and nobody's prepared to do it downstairs. You guys are gonna be a mess. So I said, you give me some time, let me train who needs to be trained down there so that it'll be an easy transition. They can go on doing what they're doing, be the lead MA, and I could do what I'm doing here. Instead of every 5 minutes, they're calling me, we need this, we need this, we need this. It still happened where they did call me because sometimes when you're used to doing everything and everybody's used to you doing everything that is within your job scope and out of it, like other people's job, then it could become real strenuous when you lose that person because you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? This is what Susie would do when she was there, so let me call her and see. So I still get those kind of calls, which I'm grateful for that because I feel like I really contributed a lot to when I was there.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, and they always tell me when I go, we miss you so much. When you coming back down here? I was like, I miss y'all too because I went from moving 20 miles per hour all the time or 100 miles per hour to sitting and doing desk work, and then it kind of calmed a lot of things down, and then going out in the field is kind of like that. So I went from doing that to sitting, and then for a little while I was like, I'm like, this is a lot slower job, but I really, really like it though. I really like it.
Good for you. That's awesome. It shows you all the places you can go and options, and your MA background and experience helps you get on that path and get chosen.
And you guys are gonna take the AAMA certification, right?
They already took it.
Oh, good. Okay, don't play with that. Make sure you take it.
Yeah, they both passed.
Good. Yes. Good. I'm so proud. And keep it up, because what they're doing now, you used to be able to recertify. What they do is they send you the books, and they give you like a 3 or 4 month period to recertify for it and do it. But then now they just changed the rules on that now. If you wanted to recertify, you could let it lapse for 2 or 3 months and still go back and recertify. They'll send you the books for it, but now they don't do that. If you let the time lapse, you have to go back and take the test again. So, I'm never letting mine relapse. I mean, I haven't this whole time.
How do you do your CEUs, Susie? Where do you get them?
I don't. I just do it through that way, where they send me the books.
Yep.
But they send me stuff all the time. Like, you can go here, you can go there.
Right.
But you can imagine how busy I am with everything else that I do. So I just have them. So in January, I think they just sent me an email. Mine ends in June of 2019. So before then, I have to recertify. And like I said, it's over a 3 or 4 month period. So in January, I just send them an email. I pay all of that money, and then they send me the books. I do everything at home and send it all in.
Are you a member?
I am, yes.
You are?
Okay.
Okay.
That's how I'm able to, they still send me emails and let me know where I could go for these CEUs and all of that stuff. Definitely still a member. And you should always stay a member, and always keep your credentials up no matter where you go in life. Keep those credentials up, because it really speaks good.
Even when you're a PhD.
Yep. So I have all those things behind it. Oh gosh.
To be at CMA.
But I enjoy it though. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, we're gonna finish the rest of our class.
All right.